Hey everyone, welcome back to FNP University, your premier source for medical education. We're continuing our series on building a differential diagnosis. If you haven't watched the first part, I highly recommend you do so. Today, we will apply what we've learned to a real-life case study. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's get started. Our last video discussed the 5 steps of building a differential diagnosis, which includes gathering information, categorizing symptoms, prioritizing possibilities, further investigation, and reassessing as new information becomes available. Today, we will see these steps in action with a real-life case study. Let's meet our patient, Mr. Smith. A pleasant, obese 55-year-old man came to the emergency room complaining of persistent fatigue, shortness of breath, and occasional chest pain that does go away with rest. He was a former smoker until his wife made him stop 2 years ago. And he reports a long history of hypertension. He also states he takes a little white and yellow pill. He does not know what they are for. In step 1, we gather information. We've taken a detailed history and conducted a physical examination. Mr. Smith's symptoms could point to several different conditions, from heart disease to lung conditions to anxiety. In step 2, we categorize his symptoms. Given his history of smoking and hypertension, we're particularly concerned about his cardiovascular and respiratory systems. In step 3, we prioritize our possibilities. Given his symptoms and history, we must prioritize ruling out the most life-threatening diagnosis, acute coronary artery syndrome, or ACS. But we must also consider other options like COT, anemia, or even anxiety. Even though they are not the most pressing, they must be diagnosed and treated as part of his workup. In step 4, we decide on further investigations. We should consider an EKG and blood tests to check for heart disease or anemia signs. Depending on those results, we might also consider a chest X-ray to assess for cardiomegaly or pulmonary defects, an echocardiogram to assess for any structural disease of the heart, a stress test to further assess for any potential ischemia, and finally, pulmonary function tests to make a firm diagnosis of COT. In step 5, we reassess and update our differential diagnosis as new information becomes available. Our results have returned. Mr. Smith's EKG shows signs of a previous heart attack, which would usually show up as a Q wave, and his blood tests show elevated cardiac enzymes and elevated BNP. This new information would move coronary artery disease to the top of our differential diagnosis due to confirmatory testing. The good news is, this was already at the top of our list, as this was the most serious in our list of differentials. We would place a stat consult with the cardiology team and get him prepped for a heart catheterization and stenting. Remember, building a differential diagnosis is a dynamic process. It's not about jumping to conclusions, but systematically working through the possibilities and using the best evidence to guide our decision-making. The scenario would have been much different with a negative cardiac workup, adventitious breath sounds, and if Mr. Smith was febrile. Picture a third scenario which happens often, which is all testing was negative, vitals and exam are within defined limits, and he reports recently losing his wife to breast cancer. We would love to hear about your experiences with building differential diagnoses. What strategies have you found helpful? Share your tips and tricks in the comments below. Building a differential diagnosis is a crucial skill for any healthcare provider. It helps us think critically, be systematic in our approach, and use evidence to guide our decision-making. And in this case, we were able to effectively diagnose and treat Mr. Smith's ischemic heart disease, in which he needed 3 cardiac stents, and discharged a few days later in his wife's care. For more in-depth discussions and guides, visit our website. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this one. As always, be well and stay healthy, and see you in the next video.